Hi, Godly Chicks and Gents. This is your girl, Takyah Love. I don't know why I'm laughing and getting tongue-tied. Y'all, I'm always laughing. Nevertheless, this is your girl, Takyah, coming at you with another podcast. I hope you ladies have been enjoying your week so far, because I know I have, y'all. I got these babies up here with me, and we have been doing Bible studies. Me and my niece wrote a song together that I will be posting on Facebook soon. But, baby, we've been swimming and going to the movies and going out to eat, and we're supposed to be going to the beach next week. But, y'all, I have really been enjoying my niece and nephew, and I truly, truly love being an aunt. Anyway, I'm actually not going to delay this episode, and we're going to dive right into it. Today's podcast is called The King Who Fixed My Crown. Last week, we talked about clowns and the most, the blibbity, yeah. The most foolish man I've ever dated. And I thought it was only right to come back and talk about kings and the wisest, funniest, calmest, Christian, most loving and peaceful man I've ever dated. This is someone I would have married in a heartbeat, but God had other plans for me. But I still have to talk about him because this man, y'all, wow, I don't even know where to start with him. Like, he was just amazing in every aspect. And the reason I wanted to go back and talk about him is because I feel that women don't believe that God have good men out here. Like, there are good men out here. The enemy has lied to many of us and told us that, all of these men are the same. You got these toxic podcasts, these toxic forums, these bitter women gathering together in groups and saying all men are trash and dogs. And I know my sisters might even get mad at me because of their luck in dating and because of the men they have come across. They might even roll their eyes when I say this, but I'm sorry. All men, they're not the same. And you have to let go of doubt. You have to let go of fear, bitterness, anger, and all of your past hurts that tell you that, because I don't want any of you ladies to miss your good thing when he comes because you are so busy wallowing in the past or in hate or in trauma that another man caused you. And now, just like the blind clown, you too are blind and can't see the king that is right in front of you. And that's what I talked about last week, what so many men have done. They're so caught up in this woman did this to me, that woman hurt me, and trying to run and shield their hearts, that when a queen comes, they don't even know how to receive her. So I don't want that to be your portion, ladies. I want you to heal, to be whole, and to pursue Jesus with all your heart so that when your king comes, you can be ready to love him with no restrictions and no restraints. So the point of me going back to tell you ladies about this man is so that you can know that they exist. And not only do they exist, but they're out here praying for you, waiting for you, crying out to God for you, and becoming whole so they can be a good husband to you, just like you want to be a good wife to them. So without further ado, let's get started. I was in Accra, Ghana. My friend Albert had called upon me at the last minute to sing after my new Ghanaian friend heard me singing in the auditorium one morning, worshiping before the Lord. And he reported back to my friend Albert, whose ministry I had flown out to support. And once Albert heard that I could sing, Albert wasn't having it. So Stevie told Albert, and Albert made me re-sing the song that I had sang in the auditorium when Stevie opened up the door and heard me. And once he heard me, he said, "This is crazy. You are singing like this and you're sitting around here quiet and not telling anyone about your gift. No, Takyah, you are singing and you are singing tomorrow." So I only had one day to prepare, y'all. And they had well-known ministers preaching at that time. And Prophet Karn was there. And I just was beyond nervous. And Albert said that I would sing right before before Prophet Karn preached, and I was mortified. I had sung for myself, for so long that I didn't even know if I could sing for God, at least not publicly. Like worship was different, but singing for the world and myself was easy. It's different. It's so easy to sing for self, but when you sing for God, or at least when I sing for him, I want to tap into, what he's saying and tap into his spirit, because if he's not with me, or if he's not clapping or applauding, then it doesn't matter how many applauses I get. But God was on my side. And even though I was nervous, a lot of people came to me afterwards and reassured me that I was on the right track and that I had this amazing gift. And there was a reporter who was doing something for like this Ghanaian news station or broadcast station or something. I can't quite remember. But he pulled me to the side and asked me to answer a few questions. And I did. And when I was finished, I heard this man with this thick Ghanaian accent say, "Look at you. You are a superstar." And when I looked up, it was this chocolate, handsome man wearing all white. And he said that he wanted to talk with me. And while he was saying something, someone else was pulling on me, saying how pretty I was and that they wanted to take a picture with me. And then there was someone else. And he was just standing there staring at me, smiling, watching all of this. And I don't even know how it happened because it was so much going on. But the next thing I knew, he had my phone and he was putting his number in it. And that's just how that went. And after he put his number in my phone and I put my number in his, he smiled and said, "I will leave you." I'm going to try to do his accent. It's terrible. It just comes natural. Y'all know I be trying to like really tell y'all the stories and like really get y'all, to go back there with me. Nevertheless, if one of my Ghanaian friends hear this, they're going to laugh me like all the way upstairs. They're going to laugh. But nevertheless, he smiled and said, "I will leave you to your fans, superstar." And when I looked back at him, I said, "Wait, you're the man who just sang. Like, you're blah, 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 blah." And I knew who he was because all throughout our trips on the bus and going out to restaurants, and when we went to the orphanage and I ended up singing for the kids, and we went to like this little slave house to go hear about the history of Ghana, they kept playing his songs on the radio. And when I realized who he was already gone. I wanted to tell him, how amazing he was and how I loved his music, but he had already disappeared through the crowd just as quickly as he appeared. So once I was back at my hotel, I told my mom what happened because, she was there with me. She had flown out to Ghana with me and she was excited. She said, "That anointed man, who was on the radio, he got your number?" And I said, "Yes, mama." And she was smiling from ear to ear like I hit the jackpot or something. And she told me, "Well, you'll be hearing from him soon, I suppose." And the next day, while I was eating toast and pineapples with orange juice, because y'all, most of the food from Ghana just did not agree with my stomach. So I was literally like living like a vegan over there. I was eating a lot of fruits and vegetables while I was there. And of course, some jollof rice, right? Anyway, I was eating breakfast the next morning after my friend's conference, and I get a call from my friend Stevie. And for reference's sake, let's just call the man I'm talking about Jay, so I won't have to, keep saying this man when I'm referring to him. So I get a call and I'm shocked. And the next thing I know, I have to hurry and get ready to go and see him sing because Jay tells my friend Stevie, my new friend Stevie, that he wants me to come and sing on stage with him tonight at his concert. And y'all already know that this gospel stuff was new to me, and that was my first time singing gospel in front of a huge crowd of people, of course, other than my church where I had just started leading worship at. So I was shaky jakey, and when I tried to talk Stevie out of it, he wouldn't let me. And then I didn't want to disappoint Jay, and I did want to see him again. So I didn't let, Jay know how scared I actually was. So I just said yes, and it was set set in stone. So Stevie arrives to pick me up and take me to his concert, but somehow he got the times mixed up. And when I got there, Jay was actually singing his last song, and then he came off of stage shortly after I got there and his concert was over. So I ended up missing the whole thing. Now, on the inside, I was like, woo, thank you, Jesus, for looking out for me. You know what I'm saying? Because, child, when I saw that crowd, I know it had to be like 1,000 people there or something. I was beyond mortified. And even though, like I said, I had sung in front of crowds like that before when I was in the world, it just was different singing for God. And it was really terrifying for me at first because I just didn't feel worthy enough or good enough to sing for God. Nevertheless, when I got there, his concert was over and he was a little upset, because he wanted me to sing, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And he just looked at me plainly and told me there will be plenty more times. No worries, Takyah. And we took a picture. And my mom was like looking at us beaming, baby, smiling from ear to ear like that purple cat off of Alice in Wonderland, like a chess cat. Baby, she loved this man from the very first moment, okay? Anyway, after all of this and we take a picture, it's late. I go back to my hotel and I rest for the night. The next morning, he texts me and I am hurrying to shower and put on clothes because he said he wanted to see me. And child, he wasn't wasting no time, but I ain't mad at him. Hey, like for real, ladies, like I actually prefer, men who just get straight to the point. Anyway, we ended up going out to this restaurant and his friend met us there and they were cracking jokes and we were laughing it up and eating some jollof. And when I told him that my mom was at the hotel, he told me not to leave her, but to bring her with me. So I did. And child, you want to talk about somebody who was head over heels for somebody. My mama was head over heels for this man. She even told me when we got back to the hotel, if you don't want him, I'll gladly take him. I mean, she was playing. But it was just funny, like, to see. And he spoiled her like she was the queen of Sheba. I mean, he was opening up her car doors, asking her, Mom, are you all right, Mom? Are you okay, Mom? What do you need, Mom? And my mama said, honey, I could get used to this kind of mom treatment. Yeah, my mama whole character, but nevertheless, she really liked him. And we laugh about that to this day. But like, Jay really took care of us, and I watched how attentive he was with my mom, and it was just unreal. And even when he told me to bring her, I thought that was so sweet because I had never had a man that wanted, to take care of my mom and to make sure that she was okay as well. He was the first one who had done something like this. And ladies, you know how it is. When a man comes after you, girl, he's not thinking about your mama because he's pursuing you. You're the one he wants. But for him to tell me to bring her and then to observe how well he treated her, y'all, that just made me like him even more. And he treated her so good that I remember one time I looked back at him and I'm like, wait a minute, does he want me or my mama? I mean, that's how good he took care of her. And I say this all the time, but you can always tell the character of a person by how they treat people who they don't think they need. So, of course, treating me was nice and even expected, especially if you want a woman to like you or, for her to know that you're interested in her. But to do all of that for my mom, that just blew my mind. Most men would have been like, hey, I'm coming to pick you up. You can leave your mom at the hotel. I'll drop you back off later. But he didn't do that. So even that spoke volumes to his character. So the next day, he said that he had to go somewhere and he wanted me to ride with him. And I did. And I said, I wanted a smoothie. Y'all, all I did was mention that I wanted a smoothie, and this man drove around Ghana, spoke in 3 different languages, from French to another language, and talked to several people along the way to make sure I got me that smoothie. And after 10 minutes of him driving and switching languages, after about the second language switch, I said, all right, okay, Jay, you don't have to do all of that. It's okay. I don't want the smoothie that bad. It's okay. I'll get something else. And he looked at me and said, no, I am getting you this smoothie. And he said it like, this is what you want. I'm getting it. End of story. And once I saw he was not stopping until I got that smoothie, honey, I shut up and let him drive. And guess what? We got me that smoothie. And after we got my smoothie that he thought was worth 3 languages and 30 minutes worth of driving, he had to go pick up some things from the store. I'm not sure exactly where we went because the details are blurry because it was several years ago. But we went to a few stores and a few markets, and he was picking up some clothes and things he needed, and I was along for the ride. And we were at one place, and all I did was look at some jewelry. Of course, I thought it was beautiful, but I wasn't going to ask this man to get it for me. I didn't even know him. And it had only been like 2 days, 3 days of me talking to him. And today was the 3rd day. Y'all, all I did was put my hands on this jewelry and looked at it. And the next thing I know, Jay was telling the clerk to get it for me and add it to his purchase. And I was like, no. I was just looking at it. No, it's okay. You don't have to do that. And he looked at me just as serious as he did about that smoothie and said, Takyah, this is what you deserve. Let me get this for you. And he said it as if he'd known me all my life. And when he looked at me and said that, I took my hands off of the jewelry because I was trying to stop him from buying it. Child, I took my hands off that jewelry and let it go. And he bought me that jewelry. After that, we went to the studio and he wanted me to sing and record the same song that I had sang that night. It was Give Me You by Shayna Wilson. And we stayed there for a few hours, and then he dropped me back off at my hotel and we talked on the phone. And then the next day, he was leaving out of town, and he had this long meeting before his flight because he had to be out of the country to perform somewhere else in a couple of days. And his team, wanted to make sure everything was taken care of. But even in that, he told me that he would still make it by the hotel to see me again before his flight. And guess what? As busy as that man was, he did just that. And he was rushing and he had to leave. And when he got there, he said, I was in the meeting and they wanted to talk about this and that. And I said, but why? Why do you want to talk about schedules and business at a time like this? I have to get back to Takyah. And y'all, I was crying laughing. And he told me, I hurried back to you, dear, as fast as I could. I'm tickled now even thinking about it. But even though I laughed at him, I knew he was serious. But we talked for maybe 5 minutes in the hotel right there. And then I came outside and I hugged him. And then he had to leave because, he was about to miss his flight. A few days later, I went back to America, and this man pursued me. And I mean pursued. And after about 2.5 months, we were talking, and I'm not sure what we were talking about because it was so long ago, but I do know that the conversation took a turn, and this man got serious with me, and he told me his desires and what he wanted to do, and basically, he told me to just drop everything, leave, and come to Ghana to be with him. He had seen enough, he'd heard enough, and he said, this is it. This is it for me right here. And that was his proposition. So when I got off the phone that night, I took what he said up before the Lord, and I was shot down faster than you can say ouch. The Lord spoke to me about 15 minutes after I started praying, and I had my answer, and I could not believe it. I was in disbelief. I was angry. I was sad and many other things. But the one thing I remember feeling more than anything was confused. Because to me, it didn't make sense. Here was this man who was nothing short of a king, pursuing me, loving me, caring for me, and you're telling me that I will marry someone else and that this man is not my husband? And I can imagine that he felt the same way, because even when I told him what I had dreamed and that I felt the Lord was saying no, he was still so calm. And one time he even laughed at me and told me no, Takyah, a man who finds a wife finds a good thing, and I found you, I saw you, and I want want you, and that is the end of the story. And we laughed about this, but he even said, me and you are going to be like Travis Green and his wife. You know, he's American and she's Ghanaian, and they are married. That is how me and you will be. Do you understand? And I was like, okay, I hear you, I understand. And I wanted that too. And to me, it made sense. It seemed like it was all aligned. Here I was in a country I had never been in before, and one of his friends saw me and raved to me about him, and he ended up performing the same night that I sang, and we met and liked each other immediately, and it just seemed like God, right? Like I went all the way to Ghana, doing the Lord's work, taking care of the poor, supporting my friend's ministry, just so God could give me my husband. It made sense to me and to him too. But when I kept praying and I kept hearing no from God, I started to be confused, and I was sure that at one point this had to be a demon. And I was thinking that this was one of those spirit spouse demons, you know, that tries to fight against people getting married and from people getting their God-ordained spouses. It had to be one of these spirits. It had to be one of these demons. But it wasn't. It was God. And when God saw that I was continuously ignoring his instructions and still allowing this man to pursue me, he started turning up the heat on my end. And I would talk to him and be so happy and smiling and so at peace. And he would be singing for me over the phone and playing his piano. And as soon as I hung up from him, I would feel a heavy conviction, and still I kept ignoring. So, as God does with me, he started giving me dreams. So I started having dreams, and they weren't demonic or scary because he was a holy man. But in these dreams, I was always crying and sad. And the first dream that I had, we were actually married in this dream, and I had on the best clothes. I mean, I looked pretty, and child, it was a ring on my finger like the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. Like, I mean, it was crazy big, like stupid big. And in this dream, I was sitting on the couch in this big house, but I was crying and I felt alone, and I wasn't as happy as I thought I would be. The next dream, I was sitting amongst him and his friends and these African women, and they were speaking their language all over my head, and I did not understand them. And I went by myself, like in this little corner away from them, and I sat down, and I felt alone again. And the dreams just kept being like that. Like it just kept being about me feeling alone and being sad and feeling like I didn't belong. And from someone, you know, who suffered greatly from rejection all my life, getting married and still having to deal with rejection was just the last thing that I wanted, you know. So after I had several of these dreams, I started listening to God. Now, I was young, about 23 when all of this was happening, so I didn't handle this the best way. But because I had already told him that, you know, I think God was telling me no about him, and he still kept being so kind to me and loving me and pursuing me, I didn't know like how else to do it. So I just slowly stopped answering his calls, his texts, his messages. And I remember the last day he messaged me before I saw him again a couple years later. But the last day he messaged me, he didn't even say anything. He just sent a picture of us in the studio together smiling. And I opened up his message and cried. And I just stared at this picture. And I said, Lord, please, like, can I be with him? This makes no sense. And just like I had heard before, the answer was still the same. And that night, when I went to sleep, I had a dream that he had this box with this engagement ring in it. And as I was looking at this ring, he was asking to marry me in this dream. I was just staring at the ring, and I didn't give him an answer in this dream. So he closed up the box, and he was like, I'm tired of waiting for you. I am sick of this. And then he took the box and he threw it at me. And when he threw it at me, I caught it in my hands and he walked off. And after I had that dream that night, I didn't respond to the message he sent me, the picture he'd sent me the day before. and he didn't message me again. And we didn't see each other until years later, and he was already in love with someone else, and God made sure of it, because even when I saw him again, I still liked him. Now, I wasn't in love with him like I was at first because time had passed, but I mean, it was just so hard not to like him. But he told me that he had found the woman he would be marrying, and he told me, Takyah, I tried to be with you, but you would not let me, so I moved on, and now I'm getting married, and she is the one. And I knew I could not be with him, but there was still some doubt in my head, like, as to why. But when I heard this from him, I let him go permanently, and I was happy for him. And when I saw his wedding pictures, he looked so happy, and she's a pretty woman of God, and I was just so happy for them. And if there was ever a man who deserved real love, it would be him. He was so honorable, and I don't look at him much now, but if something of his pops up and I see him or his wife or he posts, about them, I just say a small prayer for them and bless them, and I just scroll on by. But I can never not look at him and smile, because he was just that kind of man. Like, there was no evil within him, not one bone. He was truly a holy man, and if there ever was something within him, I never knew about it. Now, the reason I brought this amazing king up was because last week, since we talked about the most foolish man I had ever dated, I could not let you ladies think that is all that is out here, because it's not. There are some good, godly men out here, and just like you are praying to meet them or cross paths with them, they are praying to meet you and marry you as well. But just like I did with the clown, I want to do the same with this king, and I want to dissect his personality and the way he treated me, so that you ladies can have hopes and know that these type of men exist. Number one characteristic of a king is that he will be a giver. I know these demonic podcasts and toxic manosphere voices have lied to some of these men. They've convinced them that a woman has to perform for them, that she has to chase them, plan the dates, pay the bill, prove her worth, and just hope to be chosen out of a lineup of women he's entertaining. Then they clap their hands as they pass these toxic ideologies on, and they pat each other on the back as they boast about how many prostitutes, women want them. That was petty. But nevertheless, that mindset is pure foolishness, and sadly, it has blinded many of them. So by the time they finally meet a good woman, a real jewel, they fumble her, because instead of coming with a heart that says, what can I give to her? How can I pour into her? Not knowing that a good woman will automatically give back to him in the same way. Instead, they come with this selfish spirit and this attitude of, what can she do for me? And I'm telling you right now, real women are not sticking around for that, at least not anymore. We are not performing for love, nor are we begging to be valued or seen or heard. I'm sorry, but we're not doing it. Relationships are supposed to be built on reciprocity. And the one thing I noticed with this king is that he didn't come to take from me, but he came to give. He didn't drain my love, my energy, or my peace and walk away full while I was left empty. No, he poured back into me. In fact, he gave so much of himself, his heart, his care, his time, and his attention, that there were many instances where I felt inadequate, because there were so many things that I wanted to do for him to show my appreciation, because y'all already know I'm a giver too, but my finances would not permit me to do it at that time, so I gave what I could. But yet, even in that, he never made me feel less than. He found small, intentional ways to brighten my day, whether it was through a thoughtful text, a gentle word, or a random check-in, or just listening to me when I needed to vent. And I cried on the phone with him several times, y'all, and he consoled me every time. Even when he was in the middle of something important, he would pause what he was doing to give me his undivided attention. And even if it was just like a 10-minute phone call, and, he said like, hey, Takyah, I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes, but I'm in the middle of something, but I have to call you back later so we can finish talking. Still, he gave to me what he could. He was generous with his time, his affection, and his presence. And it wasn't about money or material things, but it was about his spirit. And he carried a spirit of generosity that said, I'm here for you. And whatever you need, if I can do it, Takyah, I will. And I told y'all, what he did the first time he took me out. I just looked at some jewelry, and once he saw me touch it, he handed it to the clerk and said, get it for her, And here I was trying to fight with him because I felt like I had to earn it. But he taught me that real love isn't something you perform for. It isn't something that is earned, but it's something that is given freely. So my sisters, when you're dating a man, please look for the fruit of generosity within his heart, because like I said, it's not about money. It's about a man who gives you effort, time, and care. And if he does that willingly, joyfully, and consistently, then I assure you, you have a king within your midst. Number 2, another characteristic of a king is that he will honor you, support you, and uplift you. Y'all, this man honored me. And he honored me so deeply that many times talking to him, I would be like, is this man for real? You know what I'm saying? Like, he cannot be real. Like, this is fake. This has got to be some sort of facade he just putting up to make it seem like, he this good of a man. Ain't nobody like this. Like, no man I've ever met acts like this. This is too good to be true. But for the entire year, the entire time he pursued me, he never switched up. He never wavered. He stayed consistent in the way he cared for me, cheered for me, and celebrated who I was. He would tell me that I was going to be this big preacher and singer one day, and that in my 30s, I would be getting celebrated and known worldwide. And this man prophesied over me, y'all. And the very woman that I am today is the exact woman he saw 8 years ago. And he always did things like that. Like, he always spoke life into me and made me feel like I was so special. I remember I wrote my first blog on WordPress. It was called 3 Ways to Know If Your Man is Heaven Sent or Hell Sent. And I sent it to him thinking he'd probably skim through it or, just say something kind of polite, but he really didn't read it. But that night, when that man called me, he was beaming from ear to ear. Like, you would have thought I had just won the Nobel Peace Prize the way he reacted. He went on to talking about how I'm such a phenomenal writer, how he loved every moment of it, and he even went into detail about what he read, so I knew he wasn't just saying something to say it, but he had actually read this blog, and he went through all the parts he loved about it and how it made him laugh at certain parts and how he was so proud of me and so happy for me that I had launched a blog. And I was like, is this man for real? Like, get out of here, Jay. This little blog I wrote, and you're doing all of this acting like I didn't just wrote a New York Times bestseller or something. And the thing is, he did that with everything I did. Every single time. Whether I wrote a song, a blog, a book, or created art, or painted something, or I was preaching, he made me feel like it was just the biggest thing in the world. And even though he was who he was, he never, not once, made me feel small. Here he was with status, a house, and a new house he was getting built from the ground up, cars, people driving him around, people asking for his autograph and wanting to take pictures with him when we went out, singing in front of crowds of thousands and tens of thousands. And I'll never forget one time when I was headed to his kitchen about to fix myself something to eat, and I saw a cashier's check over $100,000 just lying on this man's table. Just casually, $100,000 check just lying on the table. It was actually like 150 or something. And later that day, I rode with him to go drop it off at the bank. But the point I was trying to make was that he had all of this, and he acted as if he had nothing. And I don't mean he was cheap or stingy. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But I mean that even though he had all of this and all of these things, he was so humble. And he is still to date the most humblest man I have ever met in my entire life. He had every reason to be proud, every reason to be arrogant and haughty and vain. And yet there wasn't a proud bone in his body. He was so lowly. And he supported me, honored me, and uplifted me. And he made me feel like I was somebody, even though I wasn't. And unlike the clown who was intimidated and insecure, so much so that instead of arising, he wanted to bring me down and make me feel inadequate and make me feel like I was scum and like I was nothing, because that's how he felt about himself. Unlike him, this man, this king, made me feel like I was somebody. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting just a little bit emotional right there. He didn't compete with me. He covered me. He didn't diminish my gifts, but he amplified them. He wasn't intimidated by my calling or what he himself even said that he saw over my life that I would one day become. He wasn't intimidated by it, but he spoke life to it. And I just want you ladies to not let this world trick you into thinking that honor and support from your man are too much to ask for, because a real man, a real king, would do both freely and with joy. Number 3, another characteristic of a king is that he will simply be a king. And what I mean by that is, no matter what happened, whether something didn't go right or a situation got intense, he never stopped being kingly. He wasn't out here cursing people out, yelling on the phone, throwing things in frustration, or switching moods like the weather. He was calm, steady, and unshaken. He was consistently a king in every circumstance, in every way, and in every situation. I watched him handle pressure with grace. And sometimes I would honestly sit back like, how is he this calm? How is he carrying, all this weight, all this responsibility, and still managing to respond with peace? Even in moments when he was tired or clearly frustrated, he never let it get to him. And you want to talk about fruits of the spirit? Child, that man didn't just have fruit. He had a whole spiritual farmer's market, a whole garden of Eden, okay? Baby, that man had peaches, oranges, apples, grapes, strawberries, watermelons. I mean, every fruit there was, he modeled it, and he did it effortlessly. And that's why many times I would just marvel at him and look at him and be like, this man is not real. Like, this is an angel. This is an angel trying to come down here and make me fall in love with him. Like, this is not real. Like, he can't be. But for all the time that I knew him, even when I was hot-headed or said things to him, because I did become frustrated with him twice. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't even him I was frustrated with. It was God, because God wouldn't let me have him. Shoot. So I was angry, and I took that anger and that frustration out on him twice. But even in those 2 situations, he stayed calm, and he'd say, Takyah, are you okay? What is all this for? What is this about? Why are you this way, Takyah? And even then, I couldn't help but laugh at him because I knew I was being dramatic and acting crazy. And y'all got to remember, I was a lot younger back then. I was around 22, 23, 24, and he was 34, and I was a hothead. But even with that, he was still a king. He never raised his voice. He never belittled me, but he stayed calm. And he was so calm and loving that his calmness forced me to look at myself and say, okay, Takyah, calm down. Now you know you're doing too much. But that's what a king does. The Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath. And he did that every time, even though there were literally only 2 instances, like out of the years I knew him, there were literally only 2 times. I'm not a confrontational person anyway, but the 2 times I even got mad at him was because I was actually mad that I couldn't have him, and I just was angry and taking it out and saying crazy stuff. But he had a soft answer for my wrath, because that's what kings do. They don't get dragged into drama. They diffuse it, and they don't compete for power because they naturally carry it. And when this man walked into a room, oh my gosh, like you just knew it. He didn't have to say, I'm a king, like you see some of these men doing all the time. I'm a king, she better respect me, I'm a king, you don't know I'm a king. He didn't announce it. He didn't say, I'm a king, I'm a high value man. He didn't need to puff his chest out or prove anything. He didn't need to force people to respect him, because when you left his presence, you knew you had been in the presence of a king. Number 4, another characteristic of a king is that he will be careful with your heart. Y'all, this man melted me, and he didn't even know it. But I was putty in his hands, and he could have played me, and he could have used me if he wanted, because that's how safe I felt with him. That's how disarmed I was in his presence. He had this way of making me feel like I was the only woman in the world, like I was so delicate, so precious, and so worthy. And he handled me with care. And the way he moved with me was so gentle and slow. With every word, with every action, he moved intentionally. He paused before he spoke. He thought before he reacted. And he reflected on what I shared before responding. He wasn't just listening to me, but he was honoring my heart. And he was so kind and gentle that at times I felt guilty for even letting our hearts get tangled like that, because I already knew what God had said from the very beginning. Still, he was never careless with my emotions. He didn't play games. He didn't send mixed signals, nor did he make promises he had no intentions of keeping. And that is what a real king does. They understand that your heart is valuable, and they treat your heart like it's something sacred, not something to be tested or toyed with. They listen when you speak. They notice when you're hurting, and they respond with patience and care. And he moved with intention because he was ready to love me fully. And above all, he was patient. He didn't rush me. He didn't confuse me. He didn't make me feel like I was too much or not enough. But instead, he showed up, and he showed up steady. He showed up gentle, and he showed up fully present, because that is what kings do. Number 5, another characteristic of a king is that he pursues you with purpose. Godly chicks, listen to me when I tell you this. When a man truly wants you, you won't have to chase him or beg for his time, because a real man pursues you with intention. He's not just there for convenience, but he's showing you with his actions that he sees your value. He sees your worth. He's calling you. He's planning. He's showing up and making it very clear that he wants to build something real with you. And courting is what you want a man to do, because courting is biblical. Courting is old school, and it's different than casual dating. Courting is when a man is not just trying to spend time with you, sleep with you, or use you only to toss you aside when he's done and move on to the next woman. No, courting is when a man studies you. It's when he takes time to learn your heart, your spirit, and where God is leading you. And if he sees that you align with the vision he has for his life, if he sees that you are not just beautiful but purposeful as well, and that you would be an asset to his future, he will come after you with fire in his heart and intention in his steps. And I'm not saying this as a theory or as some sort of Cinderella fairy tale, but I'm telling you ladies this because it's real. There are men who move like this. There are men who still court, who still pursue, and who still cover. And I know that for myself because of Jay, because of this man. That man saw me, and once he saw me, once we talked, once he got to know just a little bit of my heart, that was it. And nobody could have stopped him from pursuing me but God. So if you're dealing with a man who's confusing you, or is unsure about you, or is straddling the fence, or if he's still out there exploring all of his options and telling you, he's got to do this and do that first, and then he'll get to you later after he's gotten his feet wet, sis, leave him right there in the midst of all of his confusion, and let him drown in the sea of his many options. But you you move on. Do not settle for confusion and inconsistency when God has a king who will come with clarity and direction. Because when a man is serious about you, trust me, you'll know. And when he's not serious, you'll know that too. Number 6, another characteristic of a king is that he will protect your walk with God. A real man doesn't just care about your body, but he cares about your soul as well. He's not trying to pull you away from God or out of God's will, but he's trying to push you deeper into it. He respects your convictions, your standards, your calling, and your relationship with the Lord. He doesn't pressure you to compromise or guilt you into doing anything outside of your spiritual boundaries. Instead, he'll cover you in prayer, speak life over your purpose, and encourage your growth in God. He doesn't compete with God for your heart, but he leads you to God. He's not a demonic distraction, but he's a safe place, a spiritual shelter, a protector of both your heart, your body, and your holiness. And that's exactly what this man did. He never once sexualized me. He never asked me to bend over so he could see me in a thong. He never asked me to FaceTime him naked or tried to FaceTime me naked with a towel wrapped around his waist. He never asked me to send him a vulgar picture of myself doing something I ain't got no business doing. He never manipulated me with lust, but he protected me. And I even stayed at his house, well, the guest house, but it didn't matter. We watched movies together, laughed together, and this man never even kissed me. He was always respectful, and the most he gave me was a hug or sweet, nothings or sweet words to me, but nothing more. And I gotta be real with y'all right here, because I wasn't saved that long when I met him, and your girl was still going through some things. I'm still going through some things now. So back then I was way worse. Honestly, I actually feel like I'm worse now because the time. Nevertheless, I was going through some things. I'm delivered now. Back then I was not delivered, and I was still battling, and I was still growing and healing. And I gotta be honest, because y'all know this is an honest podcast. Ain't nobody withholding no truth. I'm telling the truth over here. Ain't nobody trying to lie to make themselves feel like an angel, and I wasn't. I'm saying I still got to watch it. But nevertheless, there were moments when I wanted to send him. You know what I'm saying, ladies? You get what I'm saying? I'm trying to whisper in the mic so y'all will get what I'm saying. But there were moments when I wanted to send him, a little something, a little picture or video, just to stir him up a little bit, just to see if I could get a reaction from him, because he was that holy. And like I said, y'all, I wasn't all the way right back then. So I wanted, to do a little something, to send a little something. But every time I even thought about doing it, I felt convicted, and the Holy Spirit convicted me. And I didn't do it because his holiness covered me, and his purity set a standard that convicted the parts of me that were still under construction. And even though I had dedicated my life to God and I was practicing abstinence, I was still watching, pornography and failing and masturbating and taking, kind of some cute pictures. Even though I didn't have a man to send them to, I was taking them of myself just because I like taking pictures. But nevertheless, instead of sending those kinds of pictures to him, because his holiness convicted me, I just, ended up sending him some cute selfies, little flirty, classy pics. And I kept, them other ones, them ruthless ones, I kept them to myself. But he was a protector, and he protected me even in the moments when I didn't want to protect myself. And that's the kind of man a queen needs. That's the kind of man you need, sis. One who doesn't lead you into temptation, but covers you in righteousness. One who sees your purpose and makes sure that nothing, not even himself, not even his own flesh, gets in the way of it. And last but not least, number 7, another characteristic of a king is that he is coming to marry you, period, point blank. When a king shows up, He's not coming to waste your time. He's coming with intentions. He's not stringing you along, keeping you confused, or making you guess where this is going. He's made up in his mind that he's looking for a wife, not just a good time. And when that is his mindset, his actions will show it. He'll talk about the future. He'll include you in his plans. He'll ask you real questions to determine if you're a good fit for him. And once he has peace about you and he's checked with God and he sees that you're a good fit, there will literally be nothing, and I do mean nothing, you can do to stop him from coming after you. This man front-loaded himself on me, y'all. But because I'm old school myself, it just worked. Neither of us had to put on or pretend because it just flowed effortlessly. I was in training, to be a wife from the Lord, and even taking classes at church, marital classes, and learning how to cook. And I already knew how to throw down, but God was making me, perfect my cooking. And this man, when he met me, was already a husband. So when we met, it just fit. Within a few days of meeting me, he had me at the studio recording because he saw something in me on that stage and he wanted to bring it out. He saw something in me that at the time I didn't even see myself. He wanted me to perform with him on his stage in front of hundreds of people, and he did not even know me from Adam's apple, but he moved as if he'd known me all my life. And because he moved like that, it melted any walls that I had, and it made me soft, just like some gooey, ooey, chewy putty. And I trusted him 100%. There was no fear within me regarding him because he said what he meant and he meant what he said. And if he said he was going to do something, he did it. If he said he was going to do anything for me, he did it. And he went out of his way to try to make it happen. End of story. He wanted to merge his life with mine so quickly. But the crazy thing is that even though it was quick and it all was happening fast, it felt so natural. That's why when God told me, no, that he wasn't the one and I was going to marry somebody else and I wasn't his wife, I was devastated because to me, it just didn't make any sense. We're both singing, we're both godly, we both filled with the Holy Ghost. I'm going to be preaching and singing. He, speaks sometime, but he mostly sings and does worship. And what do you mean he's not the one or that I'm not his wife? God, you tripping. Women are not running into men like this every day. And even though I was young, one thing I was not was foolish. And I had not even dated many men back then, but I knew enough to know that he was a 1 in a million. And he moved like I did in relationships. And I had never met a man who moved like me, with so much love and intention and loving people like Christ and giving and kind for no reason, just because that's who he was. He wanted to pour into me continuously. And this is what I always did to men when I dated them. So when he did it to me, I was like, wait, this is how that feels? And it just fit. And if ever he was doing anything, he wanted me to be a part of it. Takyah, I'll be in New York. I want you to come with me. Takyah, I'll be in Florida visiting a friend of mine. I think it was Jonathan Nelson. I want you to meet him. He's got to meet you. Takyah, I'll be in your country next month. Do you want to go with me here? Good morning, Takyah. I just want to send you something. What is your bank account number? Whatever he had, he wanted to share it. And I didn't even go on many of those trips with him that he asked me to go on because, like I told y'all, I was still, going through some things and still needed deliverance. And I didn't trust myself. It wasn't even him. It was just that I didn't trust myself. But nevertheless, he wanted me to be a part of everything. And he was just... Yeah, he was just a man who's a very tough act to follow. I'm sorry, you just don't meet men like that very often. And now I understand from a woman's perspective what men have always said about me. Because when you meet somebody who's whole like that, who's happy, who's glowing, who's holy, who just loves you just because... You're just not running into people like this often. I'm sorry, you're just not. Nevertheless, a king, sis, he's coming to marry you. And it doesn't take them long. It doesn't. Because a king moves in alignment with what God says about love and commitment. And he uses the Bible as his compass, not culture. There will be no mixed signals, no hot and cold games, no emotional confusion. Because real kings are not coming to play. They're coming to cover, put a ring on your finger, and marry you. They're not going to have you up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning scrolling through the people that they follow and trying to see the women that they're following, wiping tears off your face, wondering, is he with this woman or is he with someone else? They're not going to have you up crying, asking yourself, where is this going? Or does he even see me as wife material? Or does he even really like me? And he just used me for my body. Does he even want me anymore? No, ma'am. A man who is truly ready to love you will walk into your life with clarity and intentionality. He's not coming to play house. He's not coming to fill a void within himself. He's not coming to use you for companionship until something better comes along. But he's coming because he sees you as a woman of value, and he's seeking partnership, purpose, and marriage. He'll start speaking the language of legacy. He'll say things like we, ours, us, and the future. He'll talk about building a home with you, not just buying you a house. He's not coming to just Netflix and chill, but he's coming to pray with you, dream with you, and grow with you. There won't be any manipulation or breadcrumbing. No, let's just go with the flow and see where the flow takes us type of energy. I don't even know why I said that like that. But he's not coming with that kind of energy because a king already knows where he's going in life and who he wants to go there with. And when a real king sees the woman who carries favor on her life, the woman who reflects God's glory and walks in grace, and a woman who he feels fits that vision, he won't move slowly. He'll move with urgency. Like the Bible says about Boaz in Ruth chapter 3, it says the man Boaz did not rest until the matter was settled and he made Ruth his wife. Boaz didn't hesitate. He didn't stall. He didn't drag Ruth through emotional limbo, but he moved how kings move. And when a king sees you and he deems you valuable, he's not going to risk losing you by playing games. And like a lion with its eyes locked on its prize, that man will be focused on you in the same way, and he will be intentional and certain. Because when a man is ready, really ready, his pursuit will match his desire. And I'm telling you, it's like a restless fire within him that cannot be quenched. And my sister, you deserve nothing less than that. And I pray that you will never have to beg for clarity, force commitment, or earn love, because your Father in heaven says that you are the favor. You are a royal crown on your husband's head. You are, if you are a virtuous woman, you are like a diamond that is hard to find, and your price is far more than rubies. And the right man will recognize that and honor you from the very start. And with that being said, ladies, I am done. Even though I could go on and on about this man, I think that this is a good place to stop. Godly chicks, you deserve a king, not a clown. So do not settle for someone who entertains you for a moment, but wait for the one who's willing to build with you for a lifetime. And even if your crown is a little crooked or has been dented by men in the past, that will be nothing for the king God has for you, because a real king is not coming to tarnish your crown or add even more dents to it, but he's coming to fix it and to remind you who you are, and you are royalty. And my prayer for all of you today is that you will receive that kind of love, and that unlike my story, the Lord will allow you to hold on to your man, to hold on to such a great man like this. And I know that the Lord allowed him for a season to come in and to show me what real loves look like. And I am just happy to have known him and to have had the time with him that I did. But nevertheless, godly chicks, if you're in a season of waiting, I want to encourage you not to lose hope. And I want you to know that God is not going to let you miss what's meant for you. And wherever you are in your love life, I want you to know that your story isn't over, because there is a beautiful love story for you. And it's already been written by the best author there is. Until next time, I love you, ladies, and I'll see you girls next week, next Friday, right here on the Godly Chik Podcast. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Godly Chik Podcast. Tune in next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear the continuation of Season 2, where we will be discussing topics and stories that are all about love. Don't forget to follow Godly Chik Ministries on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Godly Chik. That's GODLYCHIK. And always remember, when you know who's you walking with, it ain't hard to be a godly chick. Have a blessed day, and I look forward to having you all here with me next week.
For my minute scenes,